Welcome everyone to another edition of PressBox. I got to tell you, the outpouring of love for PressBox on Facebook was phenomenal. So I want to thank everyone for their comments. And as we evolve, we'll take those comments into everything that we do. Because really that's what, with social media and interactive media, the way we have it now, we really want to hear from you. We really want to hear the comments and the type of topics that you want us to cover on this show, because really that's what it's designed. Get our insight in what we're doing and try to bring that to you each and every week here on PressBox. On this week's show, excited, of course, Bradford last week with a big victory over Brookfield Central. We will cover that. In the second half of the show, we're going to bring in John Weiser, who is the voice of Carthage football for some 11 years now. And you'll hear John's perspective, and we'll talk about the football on the north side. And I tell you what, make the trip down Sheridan Road if you live in Kenosha and go see those facilities, because you will absolutely be blown away, trust me. All right, joining me this week again are my counterparts. First of all, Mr. Tom Roders.
Larry, my pleasure.
Tom with his sexy, I almost said Barry Manilow, but I mean Barry White voice. So ladies, yes, no Tom's taken, so let it go.
Thank you.
And Bill Fritsch. Bill, welcome back.
I'm glad to be back, guys. I'm excited to be here, and it was a lot of fun the first time. I didn't break any cameras or anything, so that was a great deed, indeed.
And Bill, first question goes to you, because Tom was not there last week. And good news, so you know, Tom will be back in the booth with me this week, and I'm looking forward to having my partner back.
Thanks, Larry.
But Bill, boy, what a big win last week. And, a lot of people thought, me included, that Brookfield Central was going to bring a lot to that table last week against Bradford. I expected a close game. We got a shutout. And I got to tell you, if you were at that game watching, if you were probably one of the 1,400 faithful that made the trip, you had to be so impressed with that Bradford defense. They carried the day.
The game started out in the right way for Bradford. It was kind of weird, Larry. Usually Bradford defers, they get the ball, in the second half, and the other team, they go on the defensive side and set the tone. Well, this week, Bradford got the football. The first drive, couple of running plays by Myers, and then all of a sudden Swisher gets a big play in the penalty. No problem. Bradford comes back, and a huge play by Quenzel Murphy got the offense rolling, got the confidence going, took away a little bit of that loud crowd for Brookfield. And before we go any farther, talking about crowds, how about the crowd for Bradford? My goodness, triple deep all the way around. The Bradford Nation was just outstanding in that game, Larry.
Yeah, big kudos, because it was black and red everywhere. And I'll tell you a little something. Brookfield Central, at the beginning of that fourth quarter, half of their stands was already gone. So, but this defense played phenomenally well, Bill. They'll have to do it again this week, and we'll talk about that. But what were your impressions going into the game? I know we're always a little hesitant, and we talk about Coach Kennedy's sideline demeanor, because you get to talk to him, I talk to him, and I tell you what, he was very calm, that I thought, but he had that little swagger going again, and I was happy to see that.
Well, when I talked to him before the ball game, first thing I said is, how's the mood today, Coach, and how's the injury front? And he said, well, not good. Bravo's down, and Dewey Warner's not going to play. But it wasn't even, like, hey, we've got this kid that'll step up, that kid. And that's the one thing I like what you said, Larry. He's right forefront with you. He doesn't hold anything back. Call it what you want. He felt really good about the matchup against Brookfield Central. I mean, we were a little hesitant at first with the broadcast, but then once Quenzel Murphy got that opening touchdown run, I think it kind of took the nerves off of Bradford, and then the defense came right back. Very optimistic. Nash, I mean, Graham had a big interception. Of course, he tried to do a little too much and got the ball knocked away, but the Gulpians were just outstanding. Clunas was great. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Yeah, I mean, the whole defense just played as one heartbeat. Remember what I told you when we did our pregame, our first show? I said, well, it's going to win for Bradford. They're going to play as one unit. One guy drops, no panic. Swisher goes down in the third quarter, no panic. Lafayette comes in, did a great job. That's what makes Bradford dangerous going into this next round.
Yeah, great points, Bill. Next round, Tom. It doesn't get, this is about as hard, I'm going to tell you, this is about as hard as it's going to get, because they play a Verona team that's absolutely stacked. They got two ball carriers who rushed for over 1,000 yards this year. This is a very good football team that Bradford will have to face.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Verona's outstanding, Larry. You just go back a couple of weeks ago when they played Heartland Arrowhead. They were down 21-7, and they outscored the Warhawks by a score of 37-7. I have never heard of one running back and the man's name, and I said the man's name is Tyler. He rushed for 353 yards. Now, Bill was telling me 6'1", 205, so he's going to be a marked man for Bradford. But I agree with Bill that defense is going to be the key to this game. And if Bradford can come and play a strong defensive game, as they did against Brookfield Central last week, I think they've got a very good chance to win this game.
Yeah, and I said in the broadcast that these guys aren't big for Bradford, but they're smart and they're incredibly tenacious. And I think that's really what it takes to play defenses. You're willing to get your nose dirty and stick your helmet in there and make a play. And like Bill said, very unselfish nature of this group. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get Tom and Bill's opinions on what it's going to take for Bradford to get out of here with a victory against Verona, boy, and be able to play at Camp Randall next week. All that and more coming back on the Press Box. Welcome back to PressBox. I'm your host, Larry Reitler. Tom Roeder's with me and Bill Fritsch. And we're covering in this first segment, we're talking about Bradford football. They face Verona. Tom, throw it to you first. But we talked about defense. What, in your opinion, is going to take Bradford to come out of there with a victory against a very tough Tiger team?
Well, I think there are two keys, Larry. I think offensively, the flexbone offense is going to have to be run, not to necessarily score on big plays for Bradford, but to keep the ball away from Verona. And second, as I said, defense. Bradford cannot afford to give up big plays defensively. If they can accomplish those two things, I think the Red Devils have a good chance of winning the ball game.
And a little wrinkle in there on offense for Bradford this week, a big hit. We talked about Warner being out last week. Don't know if he's cleared to play yet. Bravo is definitely out. And now the loss of their quarterback, Zach Swisher. Bill, what's it going to take for Bradford to win?
Team effort again, guys. I've been saying it. No turnovers. Last year against Waukesha West, Coach Kennedy said the last thing that we can do, can't turn the ball over. In fact, he said the only team that can really beat Bradford last year when they lost to Franklin with 5 miscues and, of course, against Waukesha, 5 turnovers, he said it's Bradford. Same thing Saturday. Especially with a new quarterback, I shouldn't say new quarterback, but a different starter in Lafayette. He's the key, the glue of that offense, as Coach said. It goes through the quarterback. He has to read the holes and everything. So you got to simplify the offense, but don't change too much that got you to the dance. Turnovers and penalties, those two are going to be the key. And time of possession, as Coach said, you got to keep the ball away from that high-powered Verona offense, no question.
Yeah, and for my keys for this game, it's you're not going to out-coach Bradford. Coach Kennedy and Coach Camerata and the like, they are going to be ready to go. And I still say this week, despite the injuries to those key players, the only person to beat Bradford will be Bradford because they have, Coach, we talked about at the beginning of the season, that big C word, confidence. This is as confident group as you're going to see. And the fact of this defense, we talked about it. 5 players who are first-team SEC, 4 of them from the defense. Covington, Hunter Corrigan was the only one on the offensive side, but you had Quanzel Murphy, Clunas, Max Agopian, and who am I missing? Oh, my guy, Jerry Nash, who I think is just probably one of the best defensive backs. So, Tom, it's really, to me, going to come down to Bradford beating themselves.
Well, I think you're both right, and I think, obviously, Bradford is ready to make that next step and get to Madison in the championship game, and hopefully they'll be able to accomplish that in Heartland this week.
And real quickly before we run out of time in this segment, two of the other key games, Tom, you called it right away at the beginning. You said a very dangerous Wisconsin Rapids team. They're still in it. They'll play DC Everest. You staying with Rapids in that?
I'm going to stay with Rapids, but they're going to have to handle the quickness of Milwaukee Riverside.
Or I should say Riverside, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to move on to that next break. And what a big plus, Bill, for a city team to finally make it to this level of this tournament.
I like Riverside, guys. I like the athletic ability of Gilly, the running back and the quarterback. And I think it's going to be Milwaukee Riverside. And hopefully, well, do we have time for a prediction? It'll be Bradford and Riverside in the championship.
And, boy, if that's the case, Bill, Bradford's already had a victory over that team. But this Riverside team, Tom, it's gotten a whole lot better since week 1.
Well, they certainly have. And, I think Bill brings up a good point. Somebody was talking the other day. Remember, Bradford went up to Stevens Point last year. And, of course, Stevens Point plays a very physical game just like that Wisconsin Rapids team's Wisconsin Rapids plays this year, and Bradford, with their quickness, came away with a 47-18 victory. So I think Bill is right. I think that Wisconsin Rapids is going to see a type of team in Milwaukee Riverside that they don't see in that Wisconsin Valley. It's going to be a team of two contrasts and should be just a great game at UW Oshkosh.
Yeah, and Tom, are there any other games that any of the other conferences that people might want to look to? I know Waterford is still in it, and what a role they have been on since they had that loss, earlier in this year.
Right.
And they've been on a complete roll. Wilmot had them, but then they came in and beat Wilmot, and they've been on a roll ever since. But outside of Waterford, who else? What other games intrigue you?
Well, in Division II, I think Waunakee, a two-time state champion, is certainly a team you got to look at. But I think Waterford's got a good chance to win the semifinal game against Green Bay Southwest, a team that is coached by former Green Bay Packer Bryce Popp, whose son plays for Green Bay Southwest. And then in D3, D3 we can call it, not to be confused with D3 hoops or football on the college level, but Wisconsin Lutheran, I think, is the class of Division III, Larry.
Yeah, Bill, any games jump out at you other than, I think Manitowoc, I think they're all done.
Burlington, don't write out Burlington Catholic Central. We were talking about him off the air with that team. Keeps on getting to the championship, getting close to the championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they get back to Madison next week.
All right, gentlemen, I will see you in a few short days at Arrowhead Field in Heartland. And, man, I just hope for, like anything, that we have a Bradford matchup in Camp Randall next week. Look forward to it. We'll take a break. When we come back, John Weiser will join us. We'll talk some Carthage football after this on the Press Box. Welcome back to Press Box. I'm your host, Larry Reitler, and on this segment, we're going to travel out to the north side and cover some college football. Kind of near and dear to my heart, although 76 seems like a very long time ago. Let's see, I was a lot better shape and a little quicker back then, and probably a little more hair too. If you find the pictures, let me know, and don't laugh much. But the field was crowned, it had grass, and that press box was something to behold. And if you've ever been on the north side recently, or if you've been out there, unbelievable how that campus has evolved, and a man who can speak to that, who's been the voice of Carthage College football. You've seen him on Channel 24. Boy, a long-time guy on RJN. Welcome to the press box, Mr. John Weiser.
Larry, thanks for having me on.
And his partner and my partner, this guy, and you can tell by his voice we've completely worn him out, Mr. Tom Roders. Tom, welcome back to the press box.
Larry, just happy to be here.
John, this year's team, 5-4, 2-4 in the conference. You think about the games they have lost, especially like last week, losing to number 17 ranked Wesleyan in a game that they had in hand. I want to classify this team as a hard luck team. Does that moniker seem to fit?
Oh, no question, Larry. This has been a tough year on the injury front. Not to use injuries as an excuse, but certainly has played a part in just about every ball game. When you look back at the beginning of the year, we've gone through 3 different quarterbacks now. 2 are injured. TJ Trepanier is out. Pete Jurakovic earlier in the season broke an ankle, out for the year. Trepanier has just had an assortment of injuries, and so we're on our 3rd quarterback. Offensive line has been dinged up. I go back a couple weeks ago, I think all 6 starting offensive linemen were out for a game coming out of that Augustana game middle of the season. So certainly injuries have played a part. It's just been a tough luck year, and for the coaching staff there at Carthage, they've really kept things together. The composure has been there. They haven't lost the kids. The kids have had a lot of faith in what they've done. I look at that Illinois Wesleyan game on Saturday, and I think no question the talent on the other side of the football for Wesleyan was certainly there. I think they were the more talented team, but just on sheer guts and will, did that team play 57 minutes of football and should have came out with a win, and unfortunately had defeat snatched from the jaws of victory once again.
And Tom, what's your impressions of this year's team?
Well, again, you don't want to use injuries as an excuse, Larry, but they've had over 30 people on the injury list over the past 3 weeks. I think another thing is that they've got a new defensive coordinator, Mike Yeager, who has done an excellent job and has come in and changed the defense. And as a result of playing a 4-3 defense, they needed different people at different positions with different skills. So there's been a lot of defensive players from a year ago now playing on the offensive side of the ball, and vice versa. There's been a lot of defensive, or I should say offensive players switching to defense. So it's not only been a year of injuries and not using that as an excuse, but it certainly has been a year of transition.
And John, let's face it, this is an incredibly tough conference. When you look at the, you got number 6th ranked North Central, you got number 9th ranked Wheaton, of course, Illinois Wesleyan 17. That's 3 teams in this conference ranked in the top 25 in D3. Why is this such a tough conference, or what makes it such a tough conference?
I think it's just the balance of the recruitment that goes on in this league. Everybody's recruiting the same type of player. Everybody, with the exception of North Park, is essentially running the same type of offense and defensive schemes. North Park more of a wishbone option, triple option threat on a game-in, game-out basis. But I think it's the type of athlete that plays in this league and the tradition of this league. It's 60 going on 70 years old right now in this league, and I will venture to say it's the top 2 D3 small college conference in the nation. I'd be hard-pressed to I think you would be hard-pressed to get an argument from anybody else, maybe the Michigan Conference, maybe the Wisconsin Conference, but certainly when discussion comes up nationally about what is one of the toughest leagues in the nation in D3 football, the CCIW is right there at the top. But I think it comes down to the recruitment and the type of kids that are being recruited by all 8 institutions. They're all going after the same kids. Having Chicago in the backyard for all of these schools certainly helps, because that's where the football talent is. That Catholic League, as Tom likes to talk about, that is a very special high school league and produces some very special high school athletes that can meet not only the academic rigors of these schools, but also the athletic rigors of a football program in the CCIW.
And Tom, you're around high school kids, gosh, for how long? And you've seen kids, especially right now, season's winding down, or some juniors going into their senior years, and they're trying to decide, can I play at that next level? Do I want to play at that next level? In your opinion, what does it take to play at this next level, being a Division III in the CCIW?
Well, I think there's a couple things, Larry. First of all, you obviously have to have the skills to play the position that normally you're going to play at the college level as opposed to maybe at the high school level. Very few players go on and actually end up playing at the same position they did a year ago or 2 years ago. And then again, the size factor, I think, is a very big thing, along with the intangible, which is the commitment. You've got to be committed to that sport 365 days a year, because as John said, this is one of the top D3 conferences in the country, and you're not going to fool anybody when you go out there on a Saturday or Saturday afternoon or Saturday night. So I think those are the big things. I know when John and I look at the freshmen that come in, the first thing we do is we take a look at the high school that they're from. And, when you see a high school that has had some success and you're able to bring in a person from that particular program, you got to feel real good about that recruit, and hopefully that grows into added recruits from that same high school in years to come.
Yeah, and John, D3, Whitewater. I mean, you know, what did they win the championship? 2 out of the last 4 years?
So yeah, they're definite power. They're up there. Mount Union, Whitewater, I think, are always going to be identified as maybe the top 2 Division III programs in the nation. And I think a lot of that comes down to national recruitment. They are recruiting on reputation. Mount Union, same thing. They know at this level. Mount Union knows at this level. For an example, the kids that don't get into Ohio State or Michigan, guess where they're going? They're going to go play at Mount Union because they know they're going to be playing for at least an opportunity to get into a national championship game at some point in their 4-year career. Same at Whitewater. I think they've done an outstanding job recruiting nationally. I think that they're recruiting on reputation. They have a strong program. They have a very great coaching staff. I think that's also been part of it. Their coaching staff has been tremendous out there. I give them a lot of props because as Tommy and I always talk about, it is so difficult to win a college football game week in and week out, but yet to do it consistently like a Mount Union or like a UW Whitewater in recent years is just phenomenal because of all of the work that goes into what you have to do, not only the recruitment but also the commitment on the practice field.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because it's a question that I've been asked a lot, and I don't honestly have an answer for, and I don't know if you either do either. Will Carthage ever play the Whitewaters, La Crosse, Oshkosh? Do you see that in the future?
I think that day will be coming in a rather short period of time. I really do. And maybe not necessarily Whitewater, but I think we will see at some point over the next 4 or 5 years several of the UW schools being added to the Carthage schedule. It's difficult because a lot of the conferences, Larry, are 8 to 10 teams. And if you've got a 10-team conference, you only have room for 1 non-conference game. The WIAC, the state conference has room for scheduling. We have room for scheduling. I think when all is said and done, you're going to see that at some point here over the next 4 or 5 years. I think you're going to see some of the UW schools added to the schedule.
Yeah, that from a fan standpoint, I think that'd be awesome. Tom, you know, you've seen this team all year. In fact, you've seen them the last few years. You kind of grew up watching Carthage football. How do you see the future? I mean, how do you see this team being able to compete, and what do they need to maybe do to you know, get to that next level out there on the north side?
Well, Larry, I think first of all, the facilities that they have are very attractive to anybody that comes on the campus for a visit, and I think it's going to take a couple of years in order for the facilities to really play a role in the recruitment process. Both John and you know my philosophy about football. You've got to have people up front who wear 50, 60, and 70. And certainly Carthage has had a lot of problems with injuries, with the offensive line especially. When the offensive line has played well this year, because they've been healthy, Carthage has done very, very well. But the number of injuries they've had, especially on offense and the interior line, has really hurt. And John and I were talking off the air last week in that game against Illinois Wesleyan. If I'm going out and I'm recruiting for Carthage, I'm getting as many big horses as I possibly can to play tackle, guard, and center. And I think when you are able to establish good lines on both sides of the football, you've got a good chance of being very competitive in any league.
Yeah, and John, like I said, you've been around 11 years. You've seen this program. You've seen these changes, and you've been a part of these changes at the school. Number one, you have to be excited. Number two, I think you kind of echo what Tom said there. You have to do that to get to that next level.
Well, absolutely. That certainly pays big dividends. But I also think too, the cupboard is not bare at Carthage. Let's get that let's get that out there. This is a very exciting team that they're going to have some players coming back next year that are going to be playing key roles. Reggie Miller has developed into a reliable running back. This year was his breakout year, so to speak. I look back at that North Park game. He single-handedly in that second half carried them onto that win, both in the return game and out of that tailback slot. Look for him to be big. E.J. Edinburgh, a freshman out of California, was running back of the year in his high school conference last year as a senior. So they've got some opportunity there on the offensive side, and they're going to get healthy. Let's face it, this was an anomaly this year. They're going to have Pete Jurkovic back. I think having him on the field at that quarterback spot will solidify what Terry Peebles, the offensive coordinator, wants to get done there, and that is to have a multiple attack where they can play the double wing, they can play a little bit of option, but they can also throw out of that, have a reliable quarterback that can do that. And I'm not taking anything away from T.J. Trepanier or Trevor Beasley, but it's just been one of those years this year. And I think on defense, too, Mike Yeager will have a second year of getting his scheme in place. It took Greg Etter, the defensive coordinator that took this team into the quarterfinals in 2004, it took him a year to get that established before that defense was a consistent dominance in the CCIW. Again, this is a defense that's ranked, I think, third right now in scoring defense in the CCIW, despite the 5-4 record and the sub-500 record in the league.
Yeah, and of course, they got one more game, so hopefully they'll go out on a winning note, which would be awesome. John, thanks for coming on to PressBox. Like you said, it's a very unique perspective. Anybody knows John Weiser, I mean, you took many years on RJN, and we now on WLIP. John, when do you sleep, man?
Well, I'll tell you, that's why I feel the way I do. You know what I'm saying?
That's all right. He sleeps all the way to the bank. And John, we'll want you to come back on too during basketball season and talk. Boy, what a program is out there for the guys. And the Lady Red are going to be awfully tough this year too. So we'll welcome you on back.
Great, Larry. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks for joining us this week on this edition of PressBox. Boy, next week, hopefully, we're talking about a trip to the state for the Bradford Red Devils. Thanks for joining us.
Great.